You know who it'd be. Oh, man. You know, sometimes I really hate responding. You know, when I first walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and the whole program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps and the 12 traditions and the 12, before I stepped into that whole arena, you know, my life was kind of chaotic. And for some reason, that whole, I don't know, outline that Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps and whatnot, it provided me a roadmap to get back to the essence of who I am as a human being. And we were never meant really truly to be ugly human beings, lying, manipulating, doing the same shit, expecting same result. We were never meant to be like that. And so I try not to be like that today. And I say all that because I'm about ready to take you on a roller coaster ride, and welcome to the Pennsylvania Department of Probation and Parole in the state of Pennsylvania. Well, you know, whole shit and caboodle. Someone asked, I love getting good messages. Someone asked, Mike, you know, how can you be on parole in 2026 when you were released on parole in 1999? Explain that. Make that shit make sense to me. That's how I could see him asking. That was just me being animated. And I thought, oh man, don't ask me something like this. You know, I try to be honest. Now you're going to get me in trouble. Here's what happened. It is true. In 1989, I was sentenced to an ungodly term of incarceration. In the interim of it all, in 1999, if my memory serves me right, it was somewhere around October of 1999, I was released on parole. I had 14 years of parole to do, period. Somewhere around 2008, 2009, I was probably like 3 years shy of that maximum date at that present moment. I was violated because I was arrested for a DUI. I was ashamed of it, tried to hide it from my parole agent. I didn't really realize that there was this thing called NCIC or something, or NCIS or some bullshit like that, that when you're convicted of a felony and you're on paper or whatever, you've been had a run-in with the law in any manner. You're put into this data bank, and when you have further issues with the police, that shit pops up on their computers everywhere. And unfortunately for me, I was on parole, and it popped up on my parole agent's desk. I was violated because I tried to hide the shit. I actually showed up at his office. He had already knew I was arrested for a DUI and let the whole charade play. That's how diabolical this whole system is. I went to his office. I'm sitting there. Yeah, hey, Mike, how's everything going? Oh, man, everything's going great, bro. You know me. I'm working hard, you know. A whole shit and caboodle. He let me go. Knowing the whole time that I had already been arrested, had already been released for a DUI, and never told him. All I had to do was actually go and say, yo, bro, you know me, I'm an alcoholic, I got banged. He might have been able to keep me on the street. But no, he let me walk out of his office. Diabolical as shit. He let me walk out. I go home. I go back to my life. You know, a couple months later or something to that nature, the hearing pops up. I go to the hearing, expecting nothing really other than to make amends for what I had done. And I didn't know DUIs were so serious. But nonetheless, I go in this office and I sit down and I appear in front of the magistrate. And who pops up out of nowhere? my parole agent. Places me in handcuffs, the whole 9 yards, violates me. And at that very precise moment, after I pled guilty to that DUI, because I was drunk, no doubt, I'm not going to lie, ain't no sense in it. He violated my parole, and sometimes when you fight the Department of Probation and Parole when you're inside a facility, because at the moment he violated my parole, I had certain amount of months to do for each one of those violations. Being intoxicated, having alcohol, driving under the influence of alcohol, conviction for a new criminal offense. There were certain amount of time, months, that they would give you. I can't remember how much I did back in the system, but I did some time. But at the same time, every damn day, that I was released from 1999 up to the point of that moment of which they convicted me in my parole status, they took every day off of me. Every day. As if none of those days I lived a righteous life, a law-abiding citizen life. Went to work. It was as if they were telling me that from the moment that they released me to the moment that I caught that DUI, that I was a total fuck-up. So they took every one of those days and put it on the end of that parole date, of which my original 1999 sentence indicated that I would have been off of parole in 2013. But unfortunately, the Pennsylvania Department of Parole said no. They took that 10 years off of me and stuck it on the end of that tail of my parole. Turned it into 2023 or 21 or something like that. And then 8 years later, I personally get convicted for a domestic battery bullshit charge. What happens? The Pennsylvania Department of Parole, and they step in and they take every one of the days again off of me, which was eight years and something, and they stuck it on the end of my tail. Meaning simply this: if you are on parole in the state of Pennsylvania and you have any contact, it doesn't matter if you get a disorderly conduct, a jaywalk, if you have any contact with police, period. Doesn't matter if it's a felony, a jaywalking, a citation, Pennsylvania Department of Probation and Parole is going to show up. They're going to arrest you. You're going to be violated, and you're going to be sent back into the system. And every damn day that you spend on the street, they're going to take it off of you, and they're going to put it on the end of your tail without ever having you resentenced to reflect the original judicial sentence that was handed to you by a judge in a court of law, all coming from a body of law that is nothing more than an administrative body of law. See, there are 3 levels of the law in the state of Pennsylvania and throughout the United States. Administrative, judicial, and whatever else. But I was convicted and sentenced under the judicial body of law in this country, and an administrative body of law was able to alter that sentencing order without any due process. No resentencing, no rehearings, no nothing. You wanted the truth, and I gave it to you. Peace out, one. Now I'm going to be in all kinds of trouble. See, you guys got to stop asking me questions. Damn, man.